Kelin,
Joe.
you ready?
I was born ready.
I'm going to give you the floor. I really don't want to talk any more politics whatsoever, but I have a feeling it's going to be a couple more of these are going to be nothing but politics.
It's so difficult. It's so difficult because it's everywhere. It's all anyone's talking about. But I will say we could start off with maybe this phenomenon.
Okay.
Have you ever gotten a migraine, or do you get migraines?
I used to.
Used to?
Yeah. Back when I was unhealthy, I would get migraines all the time.
Well, I'm unhealthy because I had one yesterday. I don't get them often. Yeah. I would say maybe once a year, if that. It's not often at all. Because, and for anyone who doesn't, maybe this is my unpopular opinion, but a migraine and a headache are not the same thing.
Not the same. And
if you tell anyone who gets migraines that they have a headache, you may be murdered. Because it's not at all the same thing.
Not a pleasurable experience at all.
No, not at all. And so, thank goodness it's pretty rare. I don't have to take any preventative medications or anything. But when it comes on, it's not fun. I get those ocular migraines. Have you ever had those where your vision either goes out or the squiggly lightning bolts, and then you want to puke, and then you're in pain for hours, and it's just not fun. But what's really interesting then is the day after, where your brain is like scrambled eggs. And typically I'm very tired. Today is different. I actually slept really well and had energy this morning, but typically I am winded, tired. I got to sit down, simply getting ready for work. Thought processes are delayed a bit, and then pain like I was hit in the head with something, like I've had a head injury. And they're just so interesting because, to my knowledge, and maybe you've heard differently, I don't know of anyone, including medical professionals, that can pinpoint what exactly this is. Have you ever heard anything about
I went the medical route. In my 20s, I used to get them so bad that it would bring me to my knees.
Ugh.
And so I did the doctor thing. They put me on every prescription you could imagine. They tried to figure it out. It's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
And I said, F this, I'm just going to do it myself. And something's triggering it. There's some behaviors, there's some diet, there's something. So all I did was I worked the scientific method where I took away all the variables. And once it stopped happening, right, I knew something was in that container of variables. And I don't have it attributed to one singular thing. It's probably 4 or 5 things that I was doing that was making them happen. And when I removed all of them, it's just how willing are you to go to an extreme to get rid of an unpleasurable experience without saying, if you can't tell me the one thing, I'm willing to do nothing, and then I'm just going to suffer those consequences. So I changed. Most of it, I believe, was diet. Because the stress element, I used to think that it was a combination between something I was eating, drinking, or whatever, and stress. Well, I still have the same level of stress, if not more. With a changed diet, I don't get them anymore. So something in that basket of poisons and toxins that I was consuming, either the stuff I was eating or when I was eating it or when I was drinking it, I changed all of that and I got them to stop. So the triggers that, and people that suffer from them, it's just the victim class of them in of themselves. They think that they're just a victim of circumstance where they can't change it. And it's bullshit. You can absolutely change it by stripping away and removing all the things that don't need. Get yourself down to your natural state, right? Mm-hmm. Eat the things that you need and nothing that you don't need, and see what happens. If it goes away, in the stuff that you don't need in your, on your menu, then just stop doing those things, and you won't get the migraines.
Because I think maybe the way you were thinking, to me it feels like it's gotta be something I'm eating, because there has been so far no rhyme or reason. I've had them at night. I've had them during the day. I've had them when I'm not stressed out. I used to think they were light induced because I got one time. I had looked outside on a very bright sunny day and a glare hit me in the eye, the sun shining off of something, and I immediately got one. And I said, oh my God, it's light. It's the way the light hits my eyes. It strains something. But I've had one at night when I was indoors with no sun out. I was in a windowless room yesterday when it came on. So it's like, that's not it. It can't be eye strain from computers. I'm on a computer every single day of my life, and I don't get them that often. There's really been no rhyme or reason to it. Some people are like, oh, barometric pressure, blah, blah, blah. No, that has not shown anything in it. And so I wonder, and I have a nephew, my young nephew suffers terribly with them. They're real bad. He's in a lot of pain. It's often. And so I wonder if it's something we eat.
I 100%. I get dismissive with the whole conversation because if it's known that people can shed it, right? Mm-hmm. And they did X, like if somebody runs a marathon and it's because they woke up, they had a good breakfast, they trained for 6 months and they ran a marathon, right? We're not looking to say, hey, there's a pathway that somebody did it, and then I'm going to just go do all those things. I want to know which ones I can still get away with doing, even though they're not necessary. Like, can I still eat a bunch of donuts and I'll do like 1 or 2 of the things and still get away with it versus just do the thing that works for other people, right?
Yeah.
Without objecting to the fact that I can't do that because you're going to take some pleasure elements out of my life kind of thing. And that's why I get dismissive because nobody you talk to with migraines is willing to do what it takes. They want a magical pill and an explanation. But let's just say you were financially struggling, right? And you were like, I don't want to financially struggle. Give me the one thing that stops me from financially struggling. And you get a forensic analysis on what you're doing. And person says, oh, here's one. I don't know if it's a contributing factor, but don't do that one anymore. How big of a fight are you going to put up and say, well, that one I really like, right?
Yeah.
So I'm totally willing to be in financial peril because I'm not willing to give up the forensic analysis. I don't want to give up that one. Can you give me a hack or a workaround so I can still do that one and still not be in financial peril?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Versus, don't spend any money. Put it all over here. Let someone help you make better decisions, and then you won't be in financial peril. And then you're like, oh, the element was anything that you have to do, keep doing. And anything that you just like doing, get rid of it for a period of time and see what happens. Do some experimentation.
Did you ever pinpoint anything in particular that you
It was more
eliminated?
than one thing. There was never one thing that I can get rid of. So I have it narrowed down to a bunch of things, and all of them are in the spectrum of unnecessary things that were toxic and poisonous anyway. So removing, I couldn't tell you. I could say, you can do these 5 things, and then that worked for me. And that's pretty much all I can get.
Yeah, see, I'm like, everything I ate yesterday is something I have been eating for weeks, if not longer. I don't know. And did you ever see, like, when you had them, did they feel very much like half of your head or like localized to one? It wasn't like, like yesterday, it was very much the left side of my head.
I couldn't pinpoint it to a part of my head, but my equilibrium was always really jacked up, and I would be dizzy and not have a real sense of, direction.
Yeah.
So yeah. But when you're in financial peril, it's because you are unhealthy in so many different areas that's contributing to that one thing. Removing just one thing isn't going to fix it, but removing a whole host of things that aren't necessary are usually like, okay, that whole basket made a, deal. So even if you're making sort of like healthy, eating choices, stuff like that, there could be stuff that's in the food that you're not even, on purpose eating that are contributing to that whole thing. So it's like, okay, if you just take these simple, only do the stuff that I have to, do the bare minimum, and then have a baseline to be able to add things in. And let's just say you go on and you're drinking water and drinking just meat that are locally sourced and some vegetables, and you're not doing anything that's not necessary. Like, I've had a pretty good run without, a migraine, and then add something back to it. And if you add that one thing back to it, like, oh, the migraine started coming back, right? Then you have a starting point. But I just, just cleared the deck on everything that I was doing, and it disappeared. Remove the variables.
Okay. I've often wondered, too, if it's something muscular, because I found often I can get some relief if I get someone to completely loosen every muscle in my traps, neck, shoulder area, although I combine it with pain meds, too, so...
Masking the symptoms kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one instance where I am like, I'm taking something.
Well, and that's the difference between solving the problem and providing relief. And if you think the providing relief that, if I took all of my nerves in my hand and deadened them. And I put it on the stove and I no longer felt pain.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just masking it. I'm still doing damage. Okay. So, and I think our bodies are really good at giving us feedback on the things that it likes and it doesn't like. And when we get these symptoms, diseases, whatever, you can attribute it to either a singular thing or a whole host of things that you're doing. And your body at a certain point just can't keep up with what you're delivering to it. So deliver what it needs.
Yeah.
All those things are luxuries. And when you're sick and not feeling well, get rid of the luxuries and just get down to the bare necessities. And then you can try to figure it out later.
You would be so proud of me.
Yes.
Recently, our household.
I'm proud of you every day.
Oh, thanks. Our household this week has sort of been like fighting this like crud, this sort of drainage, nasal stuff. And I feel like we're like kind of on the winning end of it. Knock on wood. The moment I felt different in any way, it was a reminder to me, you know what? I've not been on my vitamin game. Let's pump the vitamins and the zinc and the everything again. And we hopped on it. And I said, let's make sure the kids get some vitamins. And I found my husband purchased elderberry gummies for the kids. And I said, oh, yeah, I've got some elderberries. Like, oh, no, I just bought them their own. And I said, where is it? And he showed me the package. And sure enough, you see just these sugar-covered gummies.
Yeah.
And I said, let me see that. And I looked on the back, and the first ingredient is sugar.
Yep.
The first one. And I was like, no, this ain't going to fly. And you would have been so proud of me. I said, no, that's candy. That's candy.
Yep.
It might have a smidgen of vitamins in them, but that's candy is what that is. And I was like, Joe would be so proud.
And now you say when these sicknesses visit everybody and you feel like you're on the positive end of that. And that's really, you've defined what health is. It is, you know, when you're in a car and let's just say you have a person that doesn't put money away to replace the tires in 60,000 miles and you have the person that does put money away for it. They both go through the tire at the same time. But when the tire happens, it was something that they were accounting for and it's less cumbersome, less expensive, you do with more ease, and you take a thing that happens and you just receive it into your life with less friction, right?
Yeah.
Both had the same thing happen to them. One just did preparatory things where it's less of a headache, metaphorically.
Yeah. Pun intended. Yeah, because typically I think the old Kelin would have immediately gone straight to some sort of medication. Mm-hmm. I would have said, oh, let me go ahead and start treating these symptoms and taking stuff. And then I found that almost always now makes it worse. Whereas instead I'm like, all right, I'm not touching meds. And again, not that we are anti-med. There are places, I just said I took a buttload of pain meds yesterday for this headache. Migraine, not headache.
Did you just beat your own ass?
I did. My brain is scrambled today. But instead of pumping anything that is, an over-the-counter medication, I did like vitamin C and zinc and D, and I made sure that I was getting more protein and less sugars, and I still exercised a little bit, maybe not as hard as I would, but I made sure that I wasn't just like giving up on all exercise. I went to bed early every night.
Well, let me go back to what you said earlier about you being against medications, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to qualify this because the two thoughts here are, okay, so do you think that the human body needs naturally medications?
Needs.
So like when I have a headache, I take Tylenol because my body had a lack of Tylenol in it, and I'm giving it Tylenol to fill the need of Tylenol.
Yeah, no.
So it's not a need, right?
Right.
Okay. So medications filling in and masking something, there's an underlying problem there, right? Mm-hmm. And all of your energy, like I have no qualms with you to be able to take some medication to then start working on the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like
you effed up.
Quiet the noise of the pain. I can't function. And then once that's quieted, all right, now let's start thinking about, why did we get to this?
I'm against masking the symptom that's supposed to be communicating something to you and then never working on the underlying problem. Because then you get in this cycle of the problem is a lack of Tylenol, and when you give it Tylenol, you can get through your day. And I think our support for RFK and dismantling that cycle where people really do believe their medications are a blessing to them.
Yeah.
Right? And so it allows them to kind of wallow in a state of unhealth and always feeding it by just masking symptoms.
Yep. I'm actually currently in a situation similar to this. And so my son has been off and on having some stomach aches over the last couple of months. Again, not every day, not even every week. On occasion, he'll get an intense stomach ache. Well, my daughter has celiac disease. We're pretty sure I have it. I've never been officially diagnosed. But so we decided, well, let's get a blood test. Let's at least see if maybe he's got a gluten issue because he's not gluten-free. So we got the blood test done, and it actually came back normal. They said, we checked a couple of things. It's normal. He doesn't have celiac. He's fine. Great. In which case, they prescribed us some medication in the event that a stomach ache comes on. We've not used it since because, again, it doesn't happen often. Well, the doctor called and said, have you used the med? Does it work? And I said, actually, we've not tried it yet because he hasn't had a stomach ache, so we haven't given it to him yet. I don't know if it works. And the suggestion to me was, you can just start giving it to him and just build it up in his system and build it up in his stomach to maybe avoid it. And I was like, okay. And then I was told, you could also soothe it with peppermint and peppermint tea, and you could try that. And I said, yeah, maybe I'll try that. And, warm compress, maybe try. Okay. But if that doesn't help, then we'll do this other test, and we'll check sugar, and then we might put him on another medication. And I'm just like...
Interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird how the rabbit hole always goes down more medications?
Yes. And it was very, and again, in their defense, they did give some remedies like peppermint and warm compress and all that. But it was so, well, let's just go ahead and give it to him to prevent it from happening again. Not like, okay, well, when it happens, start writing down, what did he eat? What time of day is it? Did something come in contact? Anything. It's just, well, why don't you just build it up in his system now? And I'm like, because it's a medication and I'm not putting it in his system needlessly.
Do you see how anti-science that is? Scientific method would be to create a baseline and figure out what's contributing to something happening. And we're doing the anti-science thing where we're just numbing the nerves in your hand and go touch the stove. We'll just numb you up all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want it to seem like I'm bashing these medical professionals because obviously if they have a patient that they feel is in pain and they need some relief, they're trying to help. But at the same time, it's
in a way that's anti-science.
Yeah. And I've even said this is not all the time.
But, okay, devil's advocate for the professionals. If you know that you told someone to stop doing something that you knew almost 100% chance they weren't going to do it, then it would be a fool's errand. You're not practicing. Yeah. You're practicing medicine. You're practicing soothing or treating a symptom with some kind of outside chemical.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You are not trying to change in behavior. We're trying to avoid you getting the stomach problem or the migraine problem or the disease or whatever, because I know you won't do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And in their defense, too, I mean, I've even been in that situation where, I remember I had a migraine once when I was pregnant. And so they had said, you cannot take any heavy medications. You've got to be very careful, blah, blah, blah. And they said, why don't you you can take a Tylenol. And I said, why don't I just take a Tic Tac? That's about how well Tylenol is going to work. We'll do this. And I'm like, it doesn't work. I want pain relief now. So I'm sure they see that instance
for sure
more often than not.
Yeah. Think how frustrating it would be if you really cared as a medical professional that everybody is already bought in. They see commercials everywhere, bought into the wonder drug that's going to solve their problem. And why won't you give it to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Think of that way.
I mean, especially talking to a parent. When their child is sick or hurting, parents want relief right away or an answer right away. And so I could see a medical professional saying, give them this, give them that. It will help.
It's way easier, and you probably have a higher success rate if you just give in to the human nature, right? Mm-hmm. We are, and we're going to talk about the primitive nature of human beings here in a minute. But I don't think our species becomes sort of like we don't evolve in a direction if this is how we solve problems.
Yeah, I can remember years ago, God, I was like in my early 20s. I knew a girl who was engaged to this guy that was a personal trainer, and he was super into fitness and lifting. And he came into work one time, and I was talking to him about it, and I was like, so what would you suggest for this? Or what would you do for this? And I remember he looked at me and he goes, what's it matter? You're not going to do it.
100% right.
And I thought that was so rude at the time, but I'm like, he was right. He was right. And I see that all the time. I see that with my friends because I've only been on this sort of like health kick or maybe bettering myself for like maybe the last year or so. And when I try to impart the wisdom I'm gaining to some of my girlfriends, I now feel the exact same way.
Rejection.
They're like, oh, I really got to start doing something. Okay, well, you should do this and you should do this. It really helps. Yeah, I'm not gonna, but I really like eating this. And it's like, why did I waste my breath? Like, I totally understand where he came from now.
So I want Ozempic in the right hand and Dairy Queen in the left hand. And where's my results, guys?
Yep.
This is the way we roll.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm telling people, if you just listen to Joe Danier, your life will change because it's amazing what can be affected by just what you eat and move your body.
And just think if RFK is successful at this and he changes the whole dynamic for an entire country where we just take some options away that are universally hurting everyone. And, the chemicals that are just allowed to happen because of the thing that is government/business. And we rip that out of there. And then I honestly think that if you, you go to your pantry, right? And then you now kind of have information and you just took everything that you knew was super bad and you threw it all in the garbage, right? And just didn't make it an option. And then what was remaining was maybe middle tier bad to sometimes good. You would increase the health of your family just by removing the options that are absolute poison, even in your own pantry.
Yeah. And it's hard to do. You really start seeing the addiction people have with some stuff. I mean, I've never minded exercising, but giving up certain foods was hard. But devil's advocate for a second, I don't know a whole lot about this. What do people say, like, when we look at things in our food, like pesticides, for example? What is the alternative to that? If we have crops and we have farmers growing things that we need to eat and we need to get to stores and we need to get to consumers, but maybe we have issues like pests or whatever it is that they're putting these chemicals in for, how easy do you think it is to just stop all that?
All right, so farming is big business, and major, huge, land masses are dedicated to agriculture. And the problem is, it is hard for a farmer to fight against the natural elements of having, insects eating your crops and vermin eating your crops. And they can do a lot of harm. Like you see people have local gardens and they put these big fences around them to try to keep things out.
Yeah.
Right? And so they've almost created agriculture for a starving society, right? They produce vast quantities of these foods, and they mass produce them in really small segment. Even though it's a lot of land, it's a small segment of land. Where if farming happened the more natural way, you would have crop loss, right? You would plant 20 stalks of corn and only get to eat 10 of them because 10 of them would get killed by insects.
Yeah.
And the corn would be healthier for you because you didn't spray chemicals on it. So it's almost like we're taking it on the chin by putting chemicals that allow us to create more corn that is edible, but the corn is of lesser, nutritional value, and it's more toxic to you eating. So if people were starving and there wasn't enough food, yes, oversupply that crap, right?
Yeah.
So what would happen? Let's just say they stopped spraying pesticides. You'd have to have more farms closer to you, and if you had further away you get, the more expensive those crops. So would you pay $10 for an ear of corn or 50 cents an ear of corn? Well, as a consumer, you're like, do you want the bad stuff for 50 cents or do you want the more expensive stuff for $10? Well, I'm going to take the 50 cent portion of it that is sprayed full of chemicals where either they genetically modify it or they spray it with pesticides or they do something to it. It's just not grown properly just for the simple poison calories that you get. So we're keeping you alive, but you're going to survive, experience some disease if you are only eating this kind of food. So I was working with, and this was every bit of maybe a decade ago. I was working with a nutritionist to kind of like look through some of the stuff that I was doing. And one of the words of wisdom that if you put something in the refrigerator and it lasts more than 3 days, it's got preservatives that you shouldn't be eating. So if you went to the grocery store on a Saturday, you got to either freeze that stuff or eat it by Wednesday, because if it lasts longer than Wednesday, I noticed the other day I bought some cheese, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I forgot I bought this last Saturday. And I'm thinking, this should have never lasted a whole week without it going bad.
There was no mold on it?
No mold whatsoever.
Oh,
it survived it. Now, so they're making it impervious to mold growth, but you're eating the chemicals that made it impervious to mold growth, right?
Yeah.
So your food should not last for 7 days. Why it has to last for 7 days? Because it has to, from a farm in, somewhere on a truck in a grocery store and to you. Most of those cycles food would be lost in, and you never get the cheese, but you're only going to pay 50 cents for it because they can grow it and do it in one big industrial area rather than having lots of little farms that are close enough to you, because the shelf life on that cheese should only be 7 days. So it's got to get to you by at least the third day, which only happens when you have lots of smaller growers that are located closer to you.
How is it Amazon can get me a package like the next day, but I can't get food delivered?
Well, they could
the next day?
if you reshape it, and it was more about getting quality, healthy food to you quicker versus vast amounts of food that have longer shelf life. Which would you choose? And it's just not the emphasis on this because costs are added to those things. Because with Amazon, you could take a single product and build its shipping and transport costs into that single product.
Yeah.
With food, it would probably add. I would bet you food prices would double if you did that on each individual. Because remember, they're specializing in, this guy's raising pigs and this guy's growing corn. You know what I mean? So the price can't hold a lot of that transportation cost unless you do it in big bulk or it can be diffused into a single cost.
Yeah, because you'd have to also be getting groceries or this food more often.
More often, yeah, because it doesn't last as long.
But then couldn't you even just like, they have all these grocery delivery apps and things now. You could almost then just set something up where you're like every Monday and Wednesday or Monday, Thursday, put this order in, and just automatic pay a subscription or something, and then keep having things come to you in a timely manner rather than, oh crap, I can't keep up with this. I got to order food all the time. I got to go shopping all the time.
Yeah, this is the same dilemma with doctors. We know all of that inconvenience is too much for the consumer to tolerate.
Yeah.
So we will buy the bad stuff instead of solving the actual problem. So let's just say your grocery store, they don't carry any national chains because the food just goes bad before it gets to their shelf. So they source it from growers that are local. So instead of having a section that's 5 shelves big with local grown produce and whatever, everything disappears. The Lucky Charms disappears. The meat growers that are 7 states away disappear, and everything that's in that store is stuff that was, sourced from a within 50-mile range of wherever that grocery store is. Lots of inconvenience, but that's the way that it should go.
Would that not also help the local government?
Heck, yeah. Local government sourcing food from the farmers that live by you.
People are healthier.
Yes.
Your local economy is stronger.
Yes.
What are we doing, Joe?
Same dilemma. We won't do everything I described there. We want our food that's filled with chemicals, that is super cheap, and we can get it on demand when we go to the grocery store.
But I mean, I've even seen like both of my neighbors on both sides of me, I see on a regular basis have their groceries delivered. I don't know the last time they went to a store. They do the Walmart delivery or the grocery store delivery. I've done that too. It's very convenient. So could you not just do that all the time with a company that does the healthier, non-preserved, non-pesticide options? Put it on repeat.
We have this figured out. We were pioneers, and keeping food without spraying chemicals on it is something we know how to do. Freezing,
Yeah.
but it just takes a little bit more of an inconvenience on our side and a responsibility to take care of food so that when you eat it, it's in good form.
Would it increase the cost of the food?
For sure. Almost, I guess, double.
So we have to solve that problem.
Here's my counter to that.
Okay.
We're eating food that is nutritionally corrupt, right?
Uh-huh.
And we're eating a lot of it because we have to eat a lot of food to get the same things that we need in food. If I start sending you really nutritionally dense food, you eat less.
Yes.
So if I told you that you could eat half the quantity of food, right, and get the right amount of nutritional value, or at least of what you were getting before, now you're double the cost of groceries, just get cut on half because you're eating less.
I've seen that even when I've been trying to pick and choose my meals throughout the day to be healthier lately. You start your day with a bunch of protein instead of a bunch of sugar or carbs, you're satisfied a lot longer.
And if you do, you have to do it a while because your gut biome has to then get changed because you're giving it food that needs different bacteria to be able to make use of it. So you have to do it. Let's just say if I said, all right, you got to change your ways, you got to pay more for groceries, and in 3 months, if you do it every day, your body will adjust, and then you'll be able to eat less food and be just as healthy as you are before. So, but are you willing to sacrifice higher groceries for 3 months until you get to the point where your body can make use of what you're giving it?
Yeah.
Not many people would. You and I might do it, but as a populace, right? How many people are willing to suffer those 3 months until their body adjusts?
It would be really interesting to take someone that eats differently. So someone that kind of does that high protein meals throughout the day and maybe stops at dinner versus someone that not like they eat a ton or are super unhealthy, but maybe they have some more carbs or something that is less nutrient dense. Maybe they don't stop at dinner. Maybe they're hungry. They need like a later snack. It would be really interesting to see people based on what it is they're eating, how much they consume in a day compared to somebody else, and what those grocery bills are like.
Totally could do it. And I know that industries are going to pop up that present that. And I feel like we're in our infancy on it because honestly, we've been talking about it for years.
Yeah.
But the general public has no idea what we're even talking about. But if you put and my big fear with RFK is that they're going to almost vilify a lot of the people that are producing food when they didn't really do anything wrong. They're just selling people things that they buy, and when they choose things, they're selling more of it. But it takes somebody to come in and without saying, okay, well, let's hit the reset button. We'll forgive everybody for what we did. Companies were just selling what people were demanding. But now let's change the dynamic. Let's take some of the choices out of the pool. And how many of the people are going to then demand their Dairy Queen? How many are going to demand their preservatives? How many are going to demand their, like if you opened up, we'll say macaroni and cheese, okay? There's a yellow dye that is very poisonous in macaroni and cheese. So then we say, all right, Kraft, you're no longer allowed to sell the bright yellow, perfect dye that goes into this mac. Now, when you open it up, it's like yellow and some white.
Kind of like a off-white color.
You're used to seeing this perfectly curated yellow piece of macaroni that is delicious, right?
Yeah.
And now it kind of looks like the stuff that you got in high school at lunch. Right?
Yeah.
If you ask them, right, which do you choose?
It's more pleasing to the eye. And
for sure.
Marketing is easier when there's a bunch of bright colors.
Right.
Which, like, by the way, some of the best mac and cheese I've ever had was white, not yellow.
Yes, right.
And even things like toothpaste. You know, a good friend of mine started seeing a drastic change in behavior with her young son when she removed red dye, including his toothpaste. The toothpaste was strawberry flavored. She bought him some new one without red dye. It tastes the same. It works the same, but it looks like cement. That's the only difference. It doesn't look red and it's strawberry flavored. And how could you eat something that tastes like a strawberry and it's gray? It's not red. If you get over that, you're healthier. And what's the difference?
Yeah, and I'm good with people making the choice that they want. If you want to eat Doritos, that's fine. right? But if you have to have the information and that you know what you're doing. For people to have bad lifestyles, but then be able to blame something other than the things that they're eating and get away with it, and then have doctors and specialists reinforcing the fact that we're just living in this delusion that food is a contributor, right? And if you do it, this is what will happen. And if you do it, it's on you, and your unhealth is nobody's problem but yours.
And I really like how you said, not that we're vilifying the farmers or the people that are making these things. Like, I totally understand why these chemicals came into play and the necessity that they felt that they had. But the thing that gets me, that I just saw recently, somebody pointed this out, how Cheerios, for example, I think was somebody, it might have been Jillian Michaels gave an example of this. Cheerios or certain cereals are advertised as heart healthy, smart choices, healthy choices, when you look at it and it's like sugar, gluten, like all this other stuff in it. And that's kind of the point is, how are we advertising these to make people want to choose the wrong choice because they think it's healthier?
Right. Well, and that's, the FDA permits that. And if you have controls about having marketing language, almost using our example like the kicking puppy, they want you to do something, so they put language that they can get away with so that you will make an uninformed decision. Yeah. If we disallowed using marketing language on food products, then we have people shopping based on the necessities of what this fills nutritionally. We establish what you need nutritionally, right? And then this product does X, Y, Z. You have 5 ingredients that are exactly what you need in the proportions that you need it. These 5 ingredients you don't need, but they taste good. And if I looked at that and said, okay, I'm making an informed decision that I'm eating something on purpose right now that I know does more harm than good to me, then you have that choice.
Yeah. We, one time, this was a couple years ago, our family always would do like pizza Fridays. On Fridays, we would get pizza. And then when my daughter was diagnosed with celiac, we had to start looking at different alternatives to do gluten-free. Well, we found one at the grocery store, and it was, I won't say the brand, but it had the brand, and then real big letters, gluten-free, now gluten-free. We're like, great, this is great, let's try it. We take it home, we cooked it, we're eating it, and immediately I said, there's no way this is gluten-free. It's too good. Like, it's too fluffy, and anyone who's gluten-free knows there's nothing fluffy. Everything is very thin crust when it's gluten-free. And I said, there's no way. And sure enough, we turn it over, and we start reading the fine print that said, gluten-free enough for FDA regulations. Not recommended for those with celiac. And you see the ingredients, and sure enough, wheat flour right there. And I'm like, how is that even legal?
FDA.
How is that legal?
Our friends in the FDA, right? So how
You're like, you know what that could have done to somebody with severe symptoms?
Yeah, for sure.
Or somebody who, like my daughter, does not get severe symptoms, but let's say we would have just put that in her diet, and she just ate that regularly, and what that would have been doing to her.
And it all stems from bastardizing language and changing terms so that they're allowed to mean things other than what they were intended. It's supposed to, language and communication is supposed to mean something. So when I say something like, if something is organic, I know what organic means, right? And then when I buy something organic, it has to be congruent with what the term means. It can't be that, something for 99 days did one thing, and the last one day it did something else, so it technically qualifies to be classified as organic. Yeah. That's wrong, and that's bastardization of language.
They can play with the words.
Exactly. And so that truth in how we communicate, I mean, we're doing that in politics too. Like, you call someone a Nazi. Nazi's supposed to mean something, but because we use marketing language, we wanted to elicit some kind of response in you. So now that person is a Nazi. And when you actually need Nazi to mean something, it doesn't anymore because we bastardized it. We used it as marketing language for an end, and there's no truth in that. I just do not believe in that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It would be so interesting to see at any local grocery store how many items are marketed to seem like something they are not.
Yep.
I used to eat veggie straws. Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
You ever have those?
Oh, yeah.
I thought, I'm getting vegetables. this is clearly the healthier option. And then you start reading ingredients and the fine print. And I'm like, I just swapped out my potato chips for different potato chips, except these aren't potatoes. And
they taste not as good and
yeah,
a little bit more expensive.
I thought, I'm getting vegetables. Why not?
But as a compliment to the FDA, there was a time where they forced companies to put the ingredients, because there was a time when you would just buy the product and you didn't have to know its nutritional value and you didn't have to know the ingredients, and they can make, again, another terminology thing is their ingredients list, like changing the name of something so it's not doesn't match what you know to be. Like if you take a certain acid that's really bad for you, and they call it like additive number 537.
Fructose or something. I feel like people get caught up with like fructose corn syrup and things of that nature.
Yeah. But do you see how much effort goes in to delivering unhealthy things and tricking you, even if you're trying to eat unhealthy? So there's this big, the RFK thing's pushing on the let's make it authentically healthy, and there's a whole stream of let's just sell really garbage products to people, get them super sick, so they go to the doctor and ask for a medication that's super. It's this all collection of a process that makes us diseased and unhealthy. Like
even when I was starting to try to change the way I ate, and less of the bad carbs and sugars, more of the protein and what I'm thinking are healthier options, and then I'm like, okay, so I'm eating a lot of meat. And then you keep hearing all these things like, oh, all these things that are in your meat and how it's now causing cancer and it's all this stuff and this isn't even real meat. And I'm just like,
can't win.
Yeah.
Everything causes cancer sometimes and then not other times.
Yes. I'm like, what's the point? I think I'm making these healthy decisions and I'm not. Or I actually made it worse, God forbid, because I thought I was doing the right thing.
Okay, so two standards here. If you went to a mechanic and had them work on your car, well, you have expectations that they knew how the systems work and they could describe them to you, and don't use any kind of mysterious language about how the alternator is some mystery to all sciences, and sometimes the alternator doesn't do what it should do. Right?
Yeah.
You'd expect. If you go to the doctor and you say the same thing and you ask them how something works and they say, this is just too complicated for somebody who doesn't have a degree on their wall, right? Just take this pill. Right?
Yeah.
Like you went to the doctor, you went to the mechanic and you're like, hey, my engine's making a noise, right? Can you fix the engine? And it's like, here's some earplugs, right? Fixed, right? We have this standard where we have an expectation that if you specialize in a certain department, you know enough about it to solve problems. But we sort of give this special pass to the medical community that they want their specialty to be so mysterious that they, over, a century of knowing how the human body works, that they just don't have a grasp enough on it to be able to take control and solve problems as well as a mechanic would.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a business. There are sales reps for reasons. They got to make money selling drugs. Doctors help them out when they prescribe the drugs. Why would they not push it? And again, I'm not bashing doctors, because absolutely people need certain medications.
Why do you defend them so much? I'm telling you that they are just glorified pharmaceutical salespeople.
Doctors are?
They are, because they get a financial. There's an incentive to sell drugs to people. And to go do your peppermint thing, there's a lack of incentive to just make you healthy and have you get out. Like, I don't go to the doctor, right? Or maybe twice in the last decade that I've had to go to the doctor for something. I'm not their preferred customer, because everything that I do is to avoid going to the doctor.
Yeah.
All right. So if they want to keep you in it, like, would you rather you've got Kelin's medical practice? Would you rather someone come see you every week where you could take their money every week, or would you rather have a person that doesn't even need you? And what if the advice you gave them meant that you were one set of advice means that you don't have to ever have to see me, and one advice means that you're going to be dependent on me for the remainder of your life. Now, just based on human nature, are all doctors noble enough to say, I know it's going to solve her problem, but my wallet is going to be affected based on the choices that she makes?
And add to it, and even if I give them a healthier fix, they're not going to do it anyway. So
So
I'll make them happy. I made their problem better.
If you just say that everything is a business and treat it accordingly, the person on the other side of the table is always going to try to make money from you, and as much money as they possibly can. And you have to defend against that by trying to make them make less money from you, or at least get a good value for the product that is served. So if you were to rate a doctor based on if they provided you health, then that's healthcare. Right? Mm-hmm. So I spent $1,000 this year on my healthcare, and I was sick 0 times. Well, that's an A, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm paying $1,000 and I was sick 27 times and I felt terrible and I didn't sleep well, well, that doctor gets an F because they kept you in a state of sickness and a dependence where they got to sell you more stuff over a longer period of time. Right?
Yeah.
That is the scam that goes on. And it's not that they're bad people. That's everybody. They just happen to be in medical. The same, you go to Sears, even a thing now? You go to Sears to buy a TV, or you go to a Best Buy to buy a TV. There's expectation that the person that gets an incentive for selling a TV is going to try to sell you one, right?
Yeah,
and they're not going to say, oh, wait, you don't watch enough TV to justify this 83-inch. I'm going to sell you a small one because you don't need it, and you know it would be a bad investment for you. I would not fault the Best Buy salesperson for trying to sell me everything I'd be willing to buy. And that's every industry, insurance and medical and technology across the board.
Yep. And now, though, I'm seeing almost where people will get so far jaded that now it's almost like, well, then who do you trust? You know, I talked about one time I got in a discussion with someone where they are very much one of these sort of Ozempic bandwagon, take a pill for everything type of person. And when I showed them some information from a doctor that pushed supplements and natural remedies and things of that nature, they found that that doctor also sells a line of supplements that you can or cannot take. He's even said, find it anywhere. Find turmeric anywhere. Find this whatever herb anywhere. But if you don't know where to go, I have some too. I have got some protein and some turmeric and some whatever. Oh, well, they're just trying to make money. They're just telling you about that so they can make money. And I'm just like, no, wait, stop. Like, now you're taking it too far. And it's almost like people then have to cut it off. I found myself just recently, I'm even ashamed to admit this. I've been following a workout program with this woman that's a personal trainer nutritionist. It's great. Her program is working well. She's very supportive. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It's convenient. I've loved it. And so she asked some of her clients, hey, would you guys mind sharing my information on your pages and maybe telling some people about some of the stuff I'm doing? And if so, they can get a discount for some of my classes. And immediately my brain went, ooh, I don't like this. Red flag. Why are you making me push stuff? Is this some kind of scam? And I went, Jesus, I'm now so jaded to it. Why would she not say, hey, if you like being my client, could you give me a referral? Could you push me along? And I'm like, it's working. It's healthy. But now I'm almost so jaded that it's like, now you see that everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even know now who to trust because we've just been misled for so long.
And that's the weirdest statement because literally everybody is trying to prosper and make money.
Yeah.
All right. But there's certain people. So if I opened a quilting store, right? Mm-hmm. And then I showed you how to quilt. And I had a rack full of quilting supplies. And would you say, oh, you just got me here so you could sell me yarn or whatever?
Even though you wanted it.
Yeah.
I wanted quilting
but there
supplies.
Isn't, in a capitalist society, the goal is to deliver value to people, right? Mm-hmm. And if I opened anything, there would be supplemental products that that are connected to what I'm trying to sell that you could buy if you're in my store if you need extra supplies. There's not a single business model that I know of that will say, I want you to trust me that I didn't get here to sell yarn. So I'm not going to sell yarn. And look at how noble I am, where I take it on the chin and not make as much money as I should because the yarn is supposed to make me virtuous somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
So I could see where the incentive, like it's already, like we had a essential oils theme, and then we had those salt rock themes and
Himalayan salt lamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that to me was evidence that people were searching something outside of what conventional medicine was trying to sell them. They knew it was bullshit.
Yeah.
They knew they were being sold goods, and they were trying to discover the snake oil on their own. And of course, when you're looking for alternatives, there are a ton of people who will tell you to put this under your tongue, and it's got magical properties.
Yes.
Right?
You want to be healthier? Plug this lamp in and just sit there all day. You don't have to
so
do a thing.
I think Tylenol and the Himalayan salt rock are the exact same thing as far as I'm concerned. Someone trying to solve a problem, right?
Yeah.
And there's enough people that will swear that if they plug that rock in, all their ails disappear, right? But from a scientific standpoint, neither of them solve problems, right? Because it's not like your body needs a salt rock in order to prosper and to be healthy and to do things, right?
Yeah.
So both of them just an artificial thing that aren't part of the natural schema. It's some kind of hack that works on some people and doesn't on other people and costs money that somebody else made off of you.
Yeah.
When I'm more simple, just do what's natural and authentic and take all these inauthentic things and throw them in the freaking garbage. Try not to use them.
Yeah. Kind of like, how do you feel about essential oils and people that sell oils? Like put this on your feet or rub this on your temple or diffuse this in your home and it does all these things for
They
you.
smell nice. I like when I'm walking around and
They might boost your mood.
and I'm like, oh, they kind of smell like cinnamon. That's
Or
nice.
lemon.
Yeah, it's better than body odor. So
Yes.
we've made an improvement, but
It may be safer than, like, would you say they're safer than burning candles?
oh yeah.
So if you want your home to smell nice, but
But again,
You
we're
don't wanna burn
pursuing
anything.
something when we have the answer. Be healthy and do all the natural things. You don't need to be, invent some kind of mysticism around it. You already have the
Yeah.
answer right down here. What do the things do? What does your body need? Oh, it needs water. Cool. Do that. Pure water. Cool. No additives water. Cool. No fluoride. Cool. Water. People drinking water for a long time. We know we need it. So if you're walking through the desert, right, and you're gonna die or you're gonna live, just do all the things that keep you alive, and you will be fine. So if you run across some meat, eat some meat. If you run across some vegetation, eat some vegetation. You're not going to find any Doritos growing out in the desert anywhere, so don't eat Doritos because they wouldn't be
Yep.
a part of what it is that, primitive you needed to survive.
and move your body.
Move it, because your body would be in the desert, you'd be moving like crazy.
Yes, you
Right?
atrophy if you don't.
That's exactly right. So we're doing all the wrong things. We're dependent on chemicals. We're putting preservatives in things. We're dyeing things a different color. We're getting nothing but chemical symptom responses from doctors. We're doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
Like there's not a single thing in our daily
And it's
lives.
all
that are-
so someone else can make money.
yeah. And again, I don't want to deprive them. If
I
we're
was saying,
too-
not that that's a villainous thing.
It isn't.
Yeah.
You're the ones making the decisions that make all of that a demand. I don't demand the same things that you need. And if you don't want to need them too, come over here and get rid of all the things that you're doing that are contributing to your need for the thing that you don't need. Oh my goodness. This is just driving me crazy.
This is exhausting.
This is an annoyance.
God, it's going to give us a headache. And
Every
then we have
time
to
we
take
have this
something
debate,
for
whenever
it.
I take a hard stance against chemical medicines that people absolutely don't need, the pushback I get from people and how hard they will defend against the thing that they need, they are not going to listen to changing their behavior so they need those things less. And they're going to cite the people that have a pancreas that doesn't work or some kind of abnormality as the reason they need medicines when they have the ability to change, but they're going to take somebody who's a victim of an actual abnormality in their body as reasons why we can't make 99.9% of the people freaking healthy.
And you know what I hear a lot too is, I know I should be doing this, I should be doing that, but I'm just so tired. I don't have the energy to do that. And I'm like, do you in any way think what you're doing is making you tired? And if you did this, that would improve. But
Here's a little mind trick that you can play on yourself. We do this in our household.
okay.
All right, we decide when we're in rational and reasonable mind, all the things that we don't want to do, we put it in this category, and all the things we do want to do, and we put it in this category. And so we'll take all of the things we don't want to do and either eliminate it or make it very difficult to get. So like, let's just say you bought donuts and you bought celery, right? And you know that celery is probably the better of the two for you to eat, and the donuts are probably the worst. So put the donuts on your roof and put the celery in a nice basket that has a nice little lid on it that's inviting and it has proper lighting on it, right? And so if you want the donuts, you have to do a hard thing to get to the donuts. If you want the celery is nice and convenient. So if you know that people are apathetic and we're lazy and we're excuse making and whatnot, don't make the donuts easy and the celery hard.
Yeah.
Right? And then
yeah.
you trick yourself into saying, middle of the night, I want a donut. I got to get the ladder. I got to climb on the roof, get the donut. I really don't want to do that shit. Damn, I'm just going to eat the celery because it's nice and easy.
Yep. I mean, I'm very much the kind of person that if I really truly want to stop or limit myself on something unhealthy, I just can't have it in the house. I will go to the roof.
For sure.
For a donut.
If you were an alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't want to take a drink, would you put the bourbon on the counter or
in a beautiful decanter
with the glass right next to it?
Yes.
Easy access. Or would you be like, I can't control myself when it's close enough to me, so you make it not close to me.
Yeah.
Right? There's an easy way to keep it far enough away from, your responsibility to what your motives are.
Yeah. I mean, same like working out. I used to go to the gym all the time and I enjoyed going to the gym, and then my schedule changed and it got to be where going to the gym was a pain in the ass and I didn't want to drive that far. And then it gets dark and it's so like, and it makes it so easy to make excuses. So what did I do? I signed up for something that I can do at home. I have literally no excuse.
You made it super easy.
I don't have to drive. I don't need extra equipment. I can do it with everything. No excuse. Go do it. It's in your living room.
And you could judge someone. If you walk into their house, you can see if they're catering to the bad things or they're catering to the good things. When you see someone who inconveniently puts gym equipment in the living room that blocks the TV, watching TV gets harder and working out gets easier.
Yeah.
But you will know that it was which of the two were more important.
Yeah, yeah. I told my mom to do that one time. She wanted to walk some more. And I said, well, if you're used to coming home and just sitting down and watching TV, put the treadmill in the living room. Just instead of sitting here watching, stand here and watch.
Absolutely. Priorities.
Nope. I think it just held laundry or something.
Human nature. It really is.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to break habits. But if you do, oh my gosh, the things that can come from it.
All right, so we have to do some political. So you did a very good job of swaying us away from the status quo political stuff.
I tried.
But since we're on authentic versus inauthentic, I want to talk about the government and if you took these millions of government employees and you just dispatched them into the private sector again.
Okay.
And so this again is a discussion of what is authentic or what is inauthentic. So if you had a manufacturing warehouse, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a guy that you needed to hire to sweep the floors. And in one warehouse, the guy's making $300K. Do you think the floor sweeper is inauthentically making $300K? And how do you know whether or not that is the proper amount for the floor sweeper to make?
How do I know?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'd have to see like what exactly he's working with. Like, is this a 300K area that he's got to do? How much time does it take? How much effort does it take?
But is there a test you can do on it to see whether or not it's authentic or not?
I don't know. Is there?
In the marketplace, it's supply demand. So if you took that job and you put it out there for $250,000 and somebody showed up and said they wanted that job, that means there's a demand for doing that job for less money, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or if you put it out there and nobody showed up for $250, then nobody's willing to do the job for $250, then it's authentic to be $300 because you tried for $250, you tried for $350, and $300 is where you kind of landed on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that would be a good test.
Yeah.
So being able to, just like science, you have to test whether or not something is valuable or not. So you have a Timex and a Rolex, right? One costs $20 and one costs $10,000, mm-hmm. right? So if you put it up for $10,000 and nobody buys it, then it's inauthentically $10,000 because there was no demand for your watch at $10,000. Mm-hmm. All right, so you got government employees that the government basically has a checkbook where they don't have to supply a value for what it is that they do, right? They have an unlimited bank account. If they need more money, they just make you pay more money and they can pay the floor sweeper $300,000, and they'll protect that $300,000 job. So you have a bunch of people in government making more money than the value of their services. Because in government, if I plucked you out of government and took you out of the equation, does the government still function? If you're not there, Elon Musk, there was a quote that, and I love this. So one of his employees came to him and said that they wanted a raise, and he didn't know enough about their job to know how valuable they are. So he said, and I don't know if this is actual. This might be folklore for all I care,
may have
but
totally made this
It's
up.
still stuck with me.
Yeah.
He said, take a week off. I'm going to go do your job for 1 week. And if I feel like you are underpaid, right, then you get the raise.
Interesting.
If you come back and I couldn't find really even how we're spending the money I am spending on you, then you're fired. Do you still want that raise? So it was the gauntlet, whether or not.
Ooh,
Right?
yeah.
Now, how much do you want that raise? That's a good test. Now, I would want it to be a little bit more objective than the guy that has to write the check, because I want to make sure that he wasn't automatically determined.
Yeah, that feels like that's going to be a little biased.
Yeah,
but I get the
if you're
idea.
If you're objective and you jumped in there like, holy shit, this person does way more than I even thought. Absolutely, I want to keep you forever. Then that sense of objectivity would hold. But anyway, if I'm a private sector IT person and I'm making $70,000 a year, and I'm a public sector IT person, I'm making $300,000. Why is it costing more in government to pay a $300,000 IT when if I bid that job with the private sector, that $70,000 person would go there for $75,000? So what's inauthentically keeping the cost of government high is because they do not have to compete, right? There's no market forces that push that labor either up or down. It's just stuck there. And and like I said, there's protections against that inauthentic value, that if you pluck that person out, nobody even really notices you were gone. That's what happened at Twitter. Fired 80% of the staff at Twitter.
Yeah.
And Twitter functions perfectly today.
Yeah.
And you know what started that whole thing with me? There was a couple of people who worked at Twitter, and they took their phones out, and they recorded a day in the life at Twitter. I come into the office and I walk up to the cappuccino machine, and then I sit down and I read a book, and then I go up and play some cornhole on the roof.
Did they show things like this?
100% still available. You can go watch this. And then I sit down and I have a 20-minute meeting and I send 2 emails. But then I'm back on the roof again, having my second cappuccino. But then we have a quiet room that we can go in there and listen to ocean waves pounding against the wall. And then, so when you add up the day in the life of a Twitter worker, we're thinking you did about 45 minutes worth of real work.
Pause.
Yes.
Why would they do that?
Because they were in San Francisco. They knew that the culture of the company was all about inefficient waste. There was no threat because they posted it. They weren't going to lose their job because it was the whole culture.
Why would anyone in their right mind publish themselves screwing off at work?
There was no embarrassment from taking a paycheck and working 45 minutes a day, because the whole company was hemorrhaging money. They were losing such money, and they didn't care. They had investment money that was coming in, and they were paying it out to these 20-something-year-olds that were doing barely any work. And then when Elon Musk comes in, he was like, yeah, that shit is
over.
Gone. That is gone. And 80% gone. And
but he's going to be the villain. You fired all these people.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you let the market forces push things in a natural effect, you will end up at what things should cost and what things should be. If you have any areas, and this is not just government, this is in business as well. If you give someone an easy deal, like if I'm a college and I'm so successful at a college, but I have all these institutions just giving me customers, right? And if I'm a private college where I have to market and I have to show merit and I have to do all these things, and I'm at a disadvantage to you who has this, good deal of customers come to me naturally. I don't have to work for them.
Yeah.
Merit, I don't have to have people that can think for themselves, right? And I keep getting money, I keep getting influence, I keep getting power. That's not based on an authentic structure. Things should fail, things should succeed based on merit. And when you inauthentically hold something in esteem that really doesn't deserve it, then you have everybody that's doing good work over here that doesn't get realized and they don't get rewarded for it. Those things go away, and you have this idiocracy of sorts where, we can't solve simple problems.
Would you say we're about to have a large scale example of, we've talked before about, I feel like anybody has at one point or another in their lives worked somewhere where they see this culture of bad employees get to slack because the good employees will pick up the slack. It's like, we're about to now reward the good employees.
That's exactly right. And it's going to be messy. It is going to be messy as shit, right? Because the longer you make something inauthentic, right? The more of a pendulum swing back to normalcy that you get, and it's super messy. But you made that, you already made that mistake. You made it inauthentically. So, for instance, let's just say the economy. Let's just say the economy is slipping and it's starting to decline. So I'm the government. I take a bunch of money and I just blast it into the economy. And so it was down by 3%, but I take more money and I throw it in there and make it look like it was better than it was. I have to do that now forever. I have to keep blasting money to fill in the gaps. When it was, so let's just say you're short on your bills by $100. So you take $100 and you blast it in and make it seem like you had more money than you had and you paid all your bills. Mathematically, you didn't, and it was fake. And either you suffer the consequences when you were short by your $100 the first time through and take care of the root of the problem, or you wait till you have $32 trillion worth of credit card debt that now was inauthentic. It's like, oh, I got to pay that back? $100 would have been way freaking easier.
So here's something I saw recently that may or may not be sort of on the same topic, but I saw somebody post on Facebook that they are now afraid for their job, that they could lose their job because of the changes coming. And somebody said, well, what's your job? They're a teacher. And they said, why do you think you're going to lose your job? Because they're about to gut the education department.
Yeah.
Would you say a typical local teacher would in any way be a part of this?
I'm going to say yeah and nay.
Okay.
I'm going to say no. The department, the managing of all of schools on a federal level doesn't threaten your second grade teacher that's at your local school. Okay. What I do think I think the Department of Education insulates really bad teachers from still being teachers. So if you're a really, really bad teacher and you're not effective and you're being paid to not educate, I would absolutely feel threatened because natural laws are going to eventually. Now, if you change your ways right now, right, and you actually teach and you take the job seriously and you put all of your effort into it, by the time they get to you to evaluate whether you're not an effective teacher, you're safe. If you think you're going to be an ineffective teacher that doesn't do a good job at it, and we allow merit to reflect downward, then yeah, you're absolutely not going to have a job.
So you think this will probably impact things like tenure?
Oh, I hope it does.
I feel like that would make sense if they're trying to make sure that someone is going to continue to put effort into something. I mean, obviously, if I had taught for a long time and I got tenure, I would want it. But
so, okay, what is tenure? Like, what is the leverage of tenure? So tenure to me means that somebody's been in a job long enough that they have excelled at all of the skills at being in that job, and they are so valuable to the institution. We want to give them a reward to stay around because we can just take in all of the wisdom that they can give the younger teachers and the people who don't have tenure. That is, in its perfect form, a really good value to school systems. Now, tenure meaning that I was a slacker and I had a union to protect me and I never really did anything, but now you can't get rid of me because I have tenure. You can't take the more advanced teacher that comes in the door because I have more years on them. And then administrations can't say, good teacher, bad teacher, got to keep the bad teacher. Well, that tenure needs to die. And I don't think tenure should be used to protect a lack of merit.
Yeah, it should be based more so on merit, less on timeline, I guess. Just being somewhere for a long time doesn't necessarily give you that kind of cushy guarantee. It's
for sure
what you've been doing.
Yeah, so if tenure actually means the valuable thing, then nobody would ever get rid of a tenured teacher because they're so valuable. They're needed. If tenure means protecting someone who's a douchebag, then they need to be gotten rid of. And I hope all of the protections that tenure to insulate bad people from being dismissed, I hope that goes away. That's why I said a little bit of both, because I think the inauthenticity is what I hope goes away. Okay, so if you have a politician who's been in government for 55 years, they've got a pretty good deal, right? They've got the power. Whether or not they're good at their job, whether or not that their district is flourishing, right? They're going to have a job because they're just going to get elected because we want the tenure of having someone that's been there 50 years.
Yeah.
Now, if I all of a sudden say term limits of 2 terms no matter what, there's no such thing as a 50-year servant in an area. You get somebody new that's got new perspective, new ideas that come in there, and then you hold them accountable the same way that you would. But the downside is that just like in education, the tenured people collect wisdom over their career, the politician accumulates power over their career, right?
Yeah.
So you lose that influence and power. Would you take your representative that is on every committee, part of every institution, can bring favors to you like it's nobody's deal, for the new dude freshman that came through the door that has nothing?
Yeah.
Have your district vote for that. That's why they will never get rid of 50-year people. But if they get rid of the terms that are just infinite, then it's almost like new blood comes in there on a regular basis.
Yeah, like, I mean, when you see these aging politicians that can barely speak or function, and you're like, why are they still here? Well, they either do or at one point carried a lot of influence, I guess then is what you're saying, for
sure.
someone, whereas a newcomer wouldn't.
Yeah, because you're not allowed to serve anymore. It's a good rule. And when this new administration has a lot of very high end, goals, like they're going to be hard. Like, what's required to get people who have been serving for 50 years to vote on a limitation of the gravy train that they've had?
Yeah.
How are you going to push that one through? It's like, hey guys, we're gonna vote amongst us, right? Mm-hmm. And $1 million bonus, right? If we vote for it, we both get $1 million bonus. We get to vote now whether or not we get the $1 million bonus. How many groups of 2 are going to say, nah, no $1 million bonus for us?
Yeah.
And you take a collective 1,000 people who now get to vote against their interests for the nobility of being a public servant. How are you going to pull that one off, guys? That's a long haul.
And I just recently saw RFK said Trump told him he wants measurable results in 2 years from RFK. Measurable results in 2 years of all these different things. And I'm like, oh, gosh. Oh, I hope he can do it.
Politics it is built-in gridlock. The founders said that we should make every big change very hard so you don't get an overzealous person that comes through there, think they got the best ideas, and wreck everything. Mm-hmm. So when you think you're going to change 10 different departments in 4 years, I'm going to say you can do that on a horizon of 30 years, right? But what are the chances that over a course of 30 years we can keep on script and we can keep things going? Impossible. It's not how our government was built. Mm-hmm. So these things in name, they feel like I want to be supportive of them, but in practice, like, you pick one and do that one really well, because I think that's all you're really going to get.
Because ideally, you would have multiple people from different sides or opposite sides of this spectrum that maybe have a different view of how to go about something, but ideally they both want the same thing and they want something to work, and so they work together to work that out. But that's just not what we have. We have 2 people on opposite sides of the spectrum that have their own interests in mind and their own goals, and maybe a long game of something they can win down the road and how it's going to make them look. So that's why they're not going to actually come together and fix it.
Yeah, so if you have 50% of the population that not only doesn't want you to do, they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that you fail at something, right? That is a long haul when you need to include them. There's no concessions. There's not going to be being honest and being objective about how things are going. You're going to have the next 4 years of both sides saying, hey, look at all that we're doing, and this is terrible, and you're ruining everything. And the people are going to be like, why can't you just do anything? That is how our founders prescribed how this process works.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you are on the losing end of an election and your opponent starts making strides of really improving things. You honestly think anyone on the losing end is going to admit that, is going to admit they did a great job or they're doing a great job?
Not in a million
Or they're
years.
really on to something. Let's run with this and keep it going.
And how far they go to sabotage what you're doing so you can't even objectively claim it, so that you don't have to admit that something worked out well.
Yeah.
Get in your way and deny that it's even a good thing. And that's why I think, the phenomena, like I see a bunch from the liberal side of things where all of a sudden unity is is high on their list. Let's all, okay, now that you're Nazi and you're a threat to democracy and you're a terrible person, hey, you ready to be unified? And the guy that just won is like, no, I want to punch you in the face is what I want to do. So how do we get over this? Now there's this big divide of the people that just won have a grievance of how they were treated while they were in pursuit of the win. And now you have the people who are done fighting it because they know they lost, all of a sudden want to get along.
I don't even see that. On my end, I see the ones that claim they want everyone to get along are now like, this is terrible, and we're going to tell you all how badly you screwed up, and we're going to tell you all what terrible people you are because you got this other person in power. I've not seen anyone on the losing side.
No humility whatsoever.
Yeah, take the role of, all right, we want this peace, we want this unity, we want everyone to support each other and come together and respect each other's rights and respect each other's views and blah, blah, blah. I see none of that going on.
Predict that it's going to go through the natural grieving process. And so now we sort of have denial and little anger
and sadness.
So then when we're at the end and they've gone through all of that process of having lost and now they've made amends internally with how they feel, then it will be a very vulnerable position where everything will become clear that they did lose. And if they do nothing, they're just going to be a victim of circumstance. But if they do something, that's when the calls for unity will come out. Say, hey, guys, can I play again? I'm done being mad.
Yeah. Speaking of this, how do you feel when it comes to involving your children? And I'm not talking about like teenagers. I'm talking about young children in politics and in your political views and beliefs. Is that something you think parents should openly tell their children, have them engage in, follow along, or would you say they're kind of little, let them be a kid, they don't need to be hearing about this? Where would you fall?
So I treat it like education, where as a good parent, you want your kids to draw their own conclusions. Okay, so would I rather have my kid get in 5 fights and learn how to fight or whether or not fights are good? Or do I want to keep them from fighting altogether and just be oblivious to the fact that somebody's going to want to fight them? Well, I want them to go through the processes early on so they can start making decisions with my guidance, right? What's good, what's bad. I'm not an indoctrinator, right? If my, as a libertarian, if my kid became a Democrat, I'd be cool with that because it would be based on his logic and what he wanted and what his beliefs are. And I wouldn't want to force him and my beliefs on him because it's not his. He would just be taking what I did and said and making it his own. I want him to come to his own conclusions. And if he defied me on certain things, it would actually show that something drew that out of him.
Yeah. Have you seen these videos of parents recording themselves telling their children who won the election and the crying and the fear and I saw somebody post say that should be a form of child abuse. Where they'll be like, well, who won? And like in this case, because it's not just this election. I've seen it in multiple elections. But let's say this election, they would say Trump won. And the kid's like, no, and crying and scared. And the parents crying.
Well, what part of that do you think is the abuse?
Well, I don't know if I'd say it's child abuse. I'm just saying you just gave your kid a whole bag of anxiety and things to worry about they don't need to worry about right now, All
right, so we'll change it a little bit. I'll give you 2 scenarios. So you tell your kid that somebody is running for election and they're going to destroy the planet and hurt you and everybody that you know. Mm-hmm. Versus saying there's a person running, what policies are important to you? And then we'll do some research to see if they line up with anything that you do. So 1, you're populating the thoughts for them and you're scaring the shit out of them based on things that are your beliefs and
Yes.
might not be theirs.
Yeah.
That's indoctrination.
And we kind of, I mean, our kids are fairly young. They're 9 and 10. And they got kind of interested because this was very much everywhere to them, too. Like, they would quote political ads. They heard it all the time. And so one thing I started seeing my husband doing is just focus on, like, the way that electoral votes work or the map works and things like that, and who can vote and who can't and all these things, and just sort of keep it. And then we said, okay, well, here are the 2 candidates. Here's what some people say. Here's why they like them. Here's why they don't like them. If they're curious, well, I like this person because I like this, this, and this. They like this person because they like this, this, and this. And I said, it's a very heated argument right now. That's what it is.
How do you feel about it?
Period. That's what it is. And even Wednesday morning when there was an announcement of, this president-elect and we had picked it, I did say to my kids, I was like, I don't know if it'll be tense at school today. It may be. It was a heated thing. I said, you don't have to tell anybody your feelings on it if you don't want to. You don't have to get in an argument with anyone. Just know it's just a big thing in our history we went through. But then I see these videos online of these people saying almost that to their kids, like, things might look different at school today, and if you need to talk about it, and
Those
you need to,
anxieties aren't fair.
and they're like, but mommy, you're crying. I'm very sad, and they're crying and they're screaming, and they're like, I don't know what this means for our future, and I'm just like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
why are you doing that to them?
And as a parent, like if they got no influences from school and television and whatever, then you could take that more subtle approach. But if they see the same commercials that you do, and they saw a commercial in 1 second that said this candidate is a giant douche and the other one is a big turd sandwich, right?
Yeah.
Now there's some contradiction, and then there should be some curiosity where, like, hey, you took 2 people and we're saying terrible things about both of them. Is it my job then to tell you, as a parent, how you should feel, which one's the turd sandwich and which one's the giant douche?
Yeah.
Right? Or just start a conversation with parents of saying, okay, well, why did people say this? And are people going to say this about you one day? And, socially we're kind of corrupt and broken at this point. So that's why I use the fighting analogy. We want to deny the fact that fights happen because they're the loss that we shouldn't have to happen. But if a fight happens, you got to be able to prepare and protect yourself for an eventual fight. You want to not have the fight, but if you have one, you want to be educated about it and have a stance on it and have feelings and beliefs. Mm-hmm. So that's why I feel like we don't talk about religion. We don't talk about these controversial things with people we care about. And then we project our own beliefs in those same people's ears. And then we create a dependency because now when they go fight their own battles, they need us here because we were their structure. We were enforcing it. So we don't do a service to them at all.
Yeah. And I think that only even more strongly enforces this idea of good versus bad, the name calling and the being mad at someone and the unfriend me if you don't feel this way and all that. Instead of just learning both sides of something and why people see their side, it's reinforcing that if you think this, you're clearly a bad person. If you don't think what I think, you must be a bad person. You don't listen, because you can take the arguments like, I've heard the exact same things from both sides this election, whether it's, oh, well, this side had a bunch of details about their policy and that side didn't. I hear that on both sides. This side made it all about emotions and this side made it about facts. I hear that on both sides. Like, everybody seems to think the same thing about their side, and all they want to do is talk about, but you're a bad person if you do this and you're on the right side or the wrong side. It's like, can we just teach our kids to look at information, look at facts, understand that someone else might see things differently from them and go from there, rather than giving them this head start of, this is what you should believe, and be upset if it doesn't go your way.
Yeah. Indoctrination, I'm against, whether it's happening in schools, whether it's happening publicly, whether it's happening in your own home, where I don't think people telling other people how to think and behave, drawing out your own conclusions and being able to weigh through data so you make up your own mind.
Yeah.
One last topic.
Okay.
Do you hear about the abstinence threat?
No.
There's an abstinence threat. So
What?
liberal women are mad that a bunch of men voted for Trump. And so they are going on social media and they're threatening that they would withhold sexual relations and relationships in general with men. What is the first thing that pops in your mind when you have a group that is no longer going to have sex? Bring it.
The first thing that popped into my... Listen, I don't want to be looked at as a mean person. The first thing that popped in my mind is, that's probably a good idea.
Same.
You probably should stick with that. I don't know if you're going to hurt anyone with that.
Mm-hmm. And you
Probably
do
the
solve...
best idea I've heard.
You do solve a couple of big problems in society. Number one is that you start to contemplate relations with people that share ideals with you. And that's a good thing. That's a skill set that has to be taught. So instead of just being very sexually and promiscuous, being a little bit more picky about your partners, and maybe like marriage and core values families will be the next tempting, punishment for us men. So that's number one. Less sex means less unwanted pregnancies. That's probably a good symptom of having that deal. Mm-hmm. Diseases and everything that goes along with that. So I'm kind of with you that I don't necessarily think they're delivering the pain that they think they do. But
it's one of those don't threaten me with a good time kind of thing.
But it exposes something that women know, right? Uh-huh. And the unimaginable power that they wield through sex with control, right, with the other gender. They know it, and it is a superpower. How much? Because we're talking about primitive states, and women and men are matched up on a biological level where men are in pursuit of it and women have it, and that power, that the separation between the two, if you just hold that as a power, you can have complete control over the whims, the primitive sense that men have. And I think women spent the last couple decades since the 60s giving away for free the power that they hold, and didn't know that it was even a big superpower. Let me have you respond before I go further.
I mean, I would agree. I almost kind of refer to it as like the Helen of Troy complex.
Yes.
Like a woman can use her sexuality in a powerful way.
Absolutely.
And to sort of just give that away, this is probably TMI, but I actually used to get teased as a young adult because I was a virgin until I was like 21, which to me does not sound like that old, but I guess nowadays it's just unthinkable. And even when I started to become sexually active, it was only with people that it was like a serious relationship. I knew you for a year or so, like all these things, because it was like, no, this means something to me and I'm not doing it willy-nilly. I think that mindset is so rare nowadays. And again, I'm not saying people need to have that mindset. If somebody is like, I'm a free single person, I'm going to go have fun, whatever, do you. That's fine. You're a grown up and you make your own decisions. But again, I see your point but remember how much power you have in that and what you can control and what you can get from it. Like, to me, that was my way of making sure I don't have some disrespectful, womanizing douche that's going to break my heart. You make them work for it, and then you know what you're getting. It's like quality control in a way. So it's almost like, women need to know what they can do and control to better themselves with that.
Yeah, and that's why the feminist movement really confuses me at times, because if I were in the feminist movement, I would acknowledge the reasons that I have superiority, and I would use that to my advantage to better myself, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't do the opposite of that, where I have superior strength to you, right? I can dominate you through sheer will. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to punish you by pretending I'm a weakling and then shedding all of my muscular awesomeness, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that one? Like, of all the things you can do to show you are powerful, why would it be eroding the thing that makes you superior? It's totally confusing.
Yeah.
Now, if, bars will open, women drink free, right? Because they know that if you get women there, that men follow.
Yeah.
That is a power.
It's typically like no cover charge for ladies.
So if men follow women into places because of them, that they're women and in their pursuit of their affections and whatnot, that is a superpower. Like, use that.
Yeah. And here's another reason too. This is such a weird idea to me, is because like at least half of the country or half of the women are not gonna feel that way. Aren't you just sort of harming yourself? Like, it would be one thing if this election came down to men versus women. And the women were like, screw you guys, we're holding this power. But it's not. There are just as many women that are like, go ahead and withhold sex. We have no problem. And the men will just go to them. So I don't know what it is they think they're going to change.
It's weirdness. That's why I brought it up, because there's a lot of people that you think you're hurting that are saying, go for it. That doesn't hurt me at all. But internally, they're feeling something like they knew they had this power all along and they didn't wield it. But now they're going to take that sword out and they're going to smite you. Like they're ready for you now, because they knew all along they were not using it and they were, taking it easy on you. But now they're going to let you have it.
As a man, let's pretend that you are a single man.
Okay.
And you met a woman. Maybe you were out on a date or out at a bar or whatever, and you met someone and you started talking, and you found out that this woman was doing that. Would you think she was nuts and walk away?
Yeah, I would.
I don't know a single man that would be like, oh, I really respect that.
Unless I have very low estrogen and I'm only a couple of levels away from being also a woman. Because I even when I talk to women, I always know that I'm, and I'm not doing this on purpose, total subconscious. I'm softer. I'm more accommodating. I'm more polite. I'm more willing to, overcome certain things. And I'm like, why don't I just treat you exactly? If you punched me in the face right now, right? If you were a man, I'd deck you right back. If you're a woman, I would halfway think like, I don't hit women. That's not part of whatever. So you would get away with a lot of more than I would hold a man accountable for.
I mean, I even, as a woman, I feel like I talk to men and women differently. And not even like in a sexual way, but even an emotional way. Like, this might be weird, but in most cases, not all, but most cases, I feel like I can be myself around men more than women. Women almost have this game of like, you got to be careful what you show them right away. You got to be careful how you word things. So many emotions can come in to it that they can maybe overthink things, read into things differently. It's almost like this game of communication that is trickier. Whereas if I grew, maybe it's because I had brothers, I didn't have any sisters. I'm used to working around men. I feel like I can be me and more relaxed and say what I want to say and how I want to say it and be more real around men than I can around women. It's just a different, weird,
and that's that
emotional dynamic.
That's that primitive level that's biological, right? And it's not something where it's not a conscious decision that we're making. We have acknowledging that you and I are different, right? And we behave with that in mind. I don't think like, okay, so you're a complete equal to me, right? There's certain things I could check off the box. She could probably do certain things equal to me, no problem. There's going to be some things that I'm going to have to do for her. There's going to be certain things she's going to have to do for me. And when we match those things up, then men and women get together because of the things that they're unequal on and they do for one another. And so like, I think through feminism, we wanted to check all the boxes. There's certain ones that we would check to make all things equal. But then we had some ones that we kind of liked, that we wanted to stay unequal and get the benefits from the things that we're unequal on. Never fought for those ones. But these ones, absolutely, make them equal, regardless if we were dismissing biological truth or not.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I always say one of the most interesting classes I took in college was gender communications. And it was, and I know this is a deeper, more sensitive subject nowadays than it was back then, but based off of what it was back then, it was so interesting because you would talk about the dynamics of men and women and how they communicated and how they thought and a lot of it was men are more power driven, women are more emotion driven. And the way that looks is, there was an example. It was a man is up on a ladder changing a light bulb. The woman says, "Oh, be careful," with the intent of saying, "I don't want you to fall. I care about your safety. Please be careful. I don't want you to get hurt. I'm concerned about you. I'm looking out for you." Whereas a man may, not always, but may be like, "Be careful. You don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing.
I've done it 1,000 times.
Why are you belittling me? Of course I am going to be careful. What a great idea. I know what I'm doing." Power over emotion. And it was so interesting to see that and see that in other instances. And yeah, I don't think women realize, this is a long way of going back around to, that's a dumb idea, in my opinion. And yeah, I think that's going to backfire. Oh, I think it's going to be good. Backfire for them, but be good for...
when you were in college, and every time I hear like a gender studies in college, I think that there were some feminists that were totally an activist, and they were peppering your brain and telling you how to feel and whatever. Do you feel like it was an objective study of something, or do you feel like you were that class was trying to indoctrinate you into feeling a certain way?
This to me felt very objective. It was a male teacher that I in no way felt was a strong feminist pushing an agenda. It was very open to discussion. Yeah, and I never felt pushed to a side. I felt very neutral. So I thought it was good.
Okay.
Today, I don't know what it would
right,
look like.
Because we would vilify. So when you gave me your little light bulb ladder experiment, right? Both things were communicated here, where the risk-averse woman was basically saying, "Be careful, so you increases your chances of not dying because you're my protector, and we need to...
I care about you.
I'm the nurturer."
Yeah.
And then the guy was like, "It's my job to protect you. So if you are, saying that you don't trust the fact that I can do things safely, then you're basically insulting me and my ability to be a protector." So those two communications, you bring those two people and say, this person says, "All I need is reassurance that you're doing things safe." And this person saying, "I trust your abilities to do things safe." And then you know what you were communicating in both of those statements. That would have been a good class that was just looking at data.
Yes, because it was called gender communications, but it was a communications class that was meant, I think, to open your mind and see that people see things differently.
Yes.
You can say men or women, you could say gender, you can say whatever. It's people view things differently. You can have the same situation where the same words were spoken, but two total intentions were taken from that.
So should guys put the toilet seat down when they're finished?
Absolutely.
You know what I do?
What?
I close the big lid. And that way, if we're going to both touch it, we're both going to touch it. I never let the toilet escape without putting the big lid down.
You're talking about the closing lid?
Yeah.
Yes! Always close that lid.
Always.
Not just the seat, but close
because
all of it.
It is unfair that you are presented with a throne to sit without having to touch anything. We got to touch it like twice.
First of all, you got to wash your hands, because if you're touching it.
But I don't want to touch it at all. That's the point, is you have to touch it zero, because we just gave you the throne to sit there exactly how you wanted it.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Again, TMI and disgusting, but here we are. Do men truly have to lift that? Will it just like spray everywhere if you don't lift that middle seat?
Oh, you mean if you get some splatter on the edges? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, is that like a
just,
pretty real thing that it'll splatter if you
with
don't...
the right practice. Like, they have these little inserts that you can put to make a little target, and you can practice hitting dead center. They have these little stickers that you put at the bottom of the bowl, and you can practice hitting an actual spot. But every once in a while, depending on your level of excitement, sometimes you deviate from the areas.
On your level
if you don't
of
have
excitement.
your scope, you don't have your scope. And sometimes you'll get some splatter. And I would much rather pick the seat up than wipe the seat off from some splatter.
Really?
We can make a mess sometimes, yeah.
You'd rather pick it up than wipe it off.
Yeah.
And put it back down.
Yeah, I don't mind it so much. I just think it's unfair that you don't have to pick it up at all.
Wouldn't
we have to do every time.
Wouldn't the splatter then get in on the bowl with the seat up, wouldn't the splatter still get
Oh, we
there?
make a mess. I don't know if you ever cleaned a restroom at any of your
Yeah.
jobs. We make a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men are disgusting.
Totally disgusting.
Especially when they don't put any of the seats down and they don't even flush. That's fun.
Flushing, that's a sin right there.
Oh my God.
So in the motorhome, it's a much smaller toilet than your normal one. So the space that you have to aim at is much smaller. So we have a
Yeah.
policy that everybody sits. And so like guys, you lose a lot of testosterone because we make everybody sit down to pee. Everybody.
You lose a lot of testosterone.
You do. That's one thing that will...
I don't know why men wouldn't want to do that anyways. I mean, obviously you're not going to do that in a public restroom because it's a urinal and so that's not going to fly. But like home, is there a big...
I think we mark our territories with our stream, right? We're used to like pissing on trees and showing where we're at. And when you sit down, you're not really doing that. Your biology doesn't get its expression of marking territory. When you're standing up, you get the full throttle. This is my crap.
It makes you feel good.
It does. Like that's why testosterone goes up
Well,
when
and
you're marking your territory.
I feel like too, guys, now some of their clothing, you don't have to totally then undo and take down everything. You can just sort of do it.
Yeah,
and it's
you just-
faster.
Yeah.
Like a time saver.
Total time saver. And honestly,
It's the
when you
weirdest
women
conversation.
go to the bathroom, you're in there for like 10 freaking minutes because you're in the seated position and then you start going like this and you're in there
First
forever.
of all,
We go into the bathroom, zip, whip, out of there.
listen, 100% that's not true.
Totally true.
If you ask, let's do a study of who takes longer in the bathroom, men or women. Listen, when going to the bathroom is all they are doing, men are in there way longer than women.
In the seated position.
Yes.
If you're in the upright position, if we said, all right, both of us have to pee. I got the checkered flag. I got the green flag. Go. Who comes out first? It is the man every time.
That is 100%
Every time.
not true. That is so not true. And the only reason, if a woman is in the bathroom longer than a man, it's we're doing other stuff in there. We gotta
I know,
straighten
that
our
is my
hair,
complaint.
fix our
No,
makeup.
we're talking about just the action of evacuating the bladder.
Okay.
You just have,
women win that every day of the week.
you are in there longer. You will agree with that?
No, men are in there
Evacuating
longer.
the bladder, you're saying you go to a seated position and it's A to Z, you're up and down as quick as possible. BS. BS. I could time you on a calendar when you, especially you go there together, right? Then the conversations happen.
But that's doing something more.
I know that you can't fight the temptation that when you're in a seated position to do more than just getting the deed done and getting back to the table so we can eat our rolls.
Do you think women go to urinate and feel the need to be on our phone?
Whatever you're doing, you're in a seat. I'm saying
I could see
you
the other side when you're gonna
when
be
you're
in there a
standing
moment,
and
but
you've got a thing to do. You don't want to be there any longer than you have to. Like in a porta potty, you're not like in there hanging out.
yeah, no,
doing
you
stuff,
want
right?
out quick.
Yeah. And so same thing. If you're on a comfortable seat and you're in a position and maybe pop open the Reader's Digest and doing something while you get caught up in the action and you have a conversation, your imagination
You
goes.
have a conversation.
Yes, with the stall next to you.
What do you think happens in a women's
I'm
restroom?
telling you. I'm telling
You
you.
have conversations.
There's a whole Instagram reel of you prettying up in the mirror, but that's after the deed, so we're not counting that. But still,
Again, you're describing instances of public groups of women in bathrooms together. That's a whole different thing.
but you can't. I'm saying all of the temptation. So even if you were alone and went to a single occupant bathroom and you're in the seated position, it would take longer than if the whip zip gone guy was
Not
in that same scenario.
necessarily.
Absolutely.
No. It's
do
all
we-
on how full your bladder is.
Do we have to have the piss off at the
I
Olympics
feel like
here?
we do. We're going to have to start timing people, except now you got to make sure you're not running and then running out because then the test is going to be flawed.
So we don't drink anything in the morning. We'll each drink a 2 liter of water. No, 2 liters is a freaking lot. 16 ounces
Yeah.
of water. We'll give it about a half hour so we have the same bladder fill. And then we'll have someone hold the timer and we'll go to it and see who takes longer.
It's got to be
discuss.
timed when they don't know they're being watched.
Right. Yeah, because that
Because
ruins it
then
because
you're
now
gonna-
you're just going to rush.
Yeah, you're
And I
gonna
don't
go
want you
faster
blowing
on
out your
purpose.
urethra or anything like that. We want it to be authentic. But I think if you didn't know it was part of a race, women would take at least twice as long as guys.
What about, this is gross. What about not urinating the other way?
It's probably proportional. The dookie takes longer anyway,
the
but
dude takes longer.
no way.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
Why do women have this whole running joke we hear all the time about waiting for a man to get out of the bathroom? Like, what are you doing in there? I'm out here with the kids. I'm out here trying to leave. I'm blah, blah,
Well,
blah.
that's different. We're just talking about the duty, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about escaping other people and having a library of peace and quiet where nobody really will walk in on you doing anything. That's a different thing. I don't know, that's trauma. And the...
If you've got kids, I just want a minute to myself.
But I'm just saying the action of taking the bladder and making it empty, right? If you take the common man and woman, the woman is always going to take longer because she is in the seated position, and you find other things to do when you're in the seated position.
I would not say it's that. I could say, let's study the size of bladders, men and women. I'd say, let's study what all they do or accomplish in the bathroom. Do they straighten their hair? Do they take longer washing their hands? Do they whatever? If it is just simply the timer from start to finish of emptying your bladder, women don't just go in the bathroom and hang out. And if they're by themselves, like,
all right, can I compound that?
I should say, this is what I mean. The act of sitting down does not make us want to do more than what we're there to do.
You don't linger. There's
No.
not like a pre and post game.
I mean, I can't say I've never, like you said, if I need a moment to myself, if I'm tired, I just woke up. I'm sure are instances that I am not in and out as fast as I could be.
Let me put an exponent on this.
Okay.
Not only does it take you longer, you do it every 20 minutes. So on the aggregate,
true.
Yeah, on the aggregate, if you added up all the piss time over the day,
Yeah.
you'd have a higher number than me.
Listen, no argument here. I've been holding it for like an hour now. I could go all the time, but
I gotta pee now.
well, stopwatch. Go time them right now.